foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Hello. William James said that genius is simply nothing more than observing in an unhabitual way. Observing life without habit. All the bad mental entanglements, emotional prejudices we have. If you could see life with the clarity of a little child, then you wouldn't have any problems. And you don't. You see through your prejudiced eyes. You see through clouded vision. You see through a mist of excuses and hostilities and prejudices and misinformation. A sea of lies. My son was saying, he went to the Price Club, you know where that is, and he said to friends who he's with, well, I won't be long, 20 minutes. So he was about 30 minutes. And there was a young lady with him, accompanying him, and when he came back, he says to the friend who asked where he was. He says, oh, well, I couldn't get served. But they also walked around a little bit, you see. And the girl that was with my son, the young lady that was with my son, never said anything. She says, yes, we couldn't get served. They both lied, didn't they? A little bit. They lied just a little bit. And he observed himself that if you could be supported in 1% of all the lies that are in your life, just that 1%, you're actually reinforcing 100%. Who understands what I just said? If you have anybody agree with you in the smallest, littlest thing, if you can convince somebody that you're generous, or that you're thoughtful, if you can convince anybody of anything, for whatever ego value it has, if they see you in a certain way which you've contrived to make them do, then everything about you, all the lies that you have about you, everything you are is reinforced. And so is it the case with emotions. Every little emotion you feel, no matter how small, if you trip over the cat, that emotion, that little resentment, reinforces every little thing about you, all of your bad habits, all of your notions, all of your Christian, Buddhist, whatever it is you're teaching. Everything in that moment is energized. And not only is it reinforced so you walk around the same person, but you're worse. I mean, out of the top of that pops another little syndrome, another little habit pattern. Because it takes energy to make you move and have your being and to develop this inner person. And either the inner person develops from an outer means, a relationship with the environment, stresses, pressures, excitements, stimulations, challenges, etc., or it is uniquely formed from a mysterious process which very few people find, for which reason we're all in conflict with it, which we haven't found. It's there, you see, but we haven't grown from it. So the inner man never grows, the inner woman never grows. This other one grows. The one that grows is the one that grew from some distant trauma. Someone laid a trip on you. You saw your mother in bed with a boyfriend or something like that, and that shock seeded who you are, and from that point onwards you have never drawn a sane breath. And you've lost your genius. The shock traumatized you. and set up the system of continuously reacting to stress and environment in order to exist as that person, because the other person is no longer. The other person exists only as a guilt. The person that might have been. And every time you react, you keep growing. It's like a seed. An oak tree is a seed. Once a seed, but if you keep nurturing it with water and sunlight and the proper fertilizers and conditions, it'll all of a sudden lose, the seed disappears, and all it takes the form of a tree, and it keeps growing and growing and growing, and with more and more sunlight and more nutrients, it keeps on popping out here and there, right? And so do you. Okay? Now, what we need to do is to understand these processes, and in our continuing series of the Battle of the Mind, I hope, I mean, some of you, are you flashing on things right now? How many people are flashing on things? Wow! So we got the first flasher over there. Please don't flash too much at once. Otherwise, I'm going to have a syndrome, and I'll be...
It must be flashing because my heart's beating very fast.
Okay.
I'm very frightened. Are you saying, I had a trauma in my life. First of all, I'm a cigarette smoker.
You am, or you were?
I am.
Well, we'll fix you tonight.
Maybe that's why I'm standing up. I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't start smoking till I was 29 years old. And I started smoking at a time when I had a trauma. That was when my ex-husband and I divorced. He left me. And I just want to clarify something that I'm not sure about, in something you said previous to this is, are you saying that...
I like nice, precise questions. It shows me that you're following and that you want a real answer. You understand?
Yes.
Some people don't give precise questions, and I have to sort of invent their question to give an answer. Please, thank you.
Okay. If there was something in my life that I hated, that I fell to before, and then I experienced this trauma of my ex-husband and I splitting up, him leaving.
Yes.
Is that how the cigarette smoking I started smoking the cigarettes?
You said something about a prior life to your husband. I don't see where that fit into the question.
Okay, I realize I'm trying to be
Can
precise.
you be more, in other words, are you saying that the onset of cigarette smoking, was that due to the stress of my husband leaving me? Or something prior
I
to
know that. I
You're sure of
believe
that?
I am, but I don't know why it was the cigarette smoking. Why didn't I start drinking? Why
Well,
didn't I go to, dope? Why
Yes,
was
well,
the
you may have, you could have very well started drinking. It wouldn't make much difference but you may have had an abhorrence to drinking. Maybe, let's say you had a father that drank, and you hated anything to do with drinking, or detested it, and it revolted you. You may not be a drinker, although you could hate him so much, you could end up becoming just like him. You understand that? Mm-hmm. You could be molded, the identity inside you could grow from that so much, and the more you try not to be like him, the more you like him. Mm-hmm. It happens. You may succeed for a while and eventually give into it, and succumb to the very thing that sprung up in you because you've hated it, see?
Neither one of my parents smoked, though. Although I did find out later in life, it was after I started smoking, that my mother was secretly smoking.
Ah.
But I didn't find that out till after I had already smoked.
Yes, well, that could have a lot to do with it. But the basic question is, you could have picked up any number of habits, but you chose smoking for whatever reason. It doesn't make much difference. Whatever is available and what is socially acceptable. If you're a rebel, you will choose something that's not socially acceptable. It's a part of your rebellion, right?
I think it was a rebellious thing I did. Even
but smoking is a rebellion in itself, though. It's an attempt to rebel. It's to fight off the conscience. It's a reinforcement to aid you in not knowing, forgetting your inability to deal with life properly. In other words, it's a way of not knowing. It's a way of rejecting reality. In other words, ego-wise, it's rebellion against knowing. Because whenever we have overreacted to environment, with anger and hate, you can't help but be a real small part of the real us gets displaced, and the thing we hate gets inside us, and we actually become what we hate, and we don't like what's growing up in us, and we don't like to see it, but we don't know how to stop it. So what do? The next best thing is not to see that it's happening, and that's what smoking is, a rebellion against seeing what is happening. It's pride's way of dealing with the problem of looking at ourselves. If it isn't there, then you don't have to feel guilty. See? Or when you smoke, you actually anesthetize your conscience. And somehow, when that happens, what you're looking at doesn't seem to show up in such stark contrast as to bother you. You can sort of live with it. You don't notice it because there's no contrasting value there.
I remember, I don't know what it was, but I really forced myself to smoke. I remember when...
Well, that's silly.
I know, it was back then, and now I'm going through a battle with my mind to stop, and it's like I'm struggling with it.
Yes.
And it's like I believe you, I see the truth in your principles you speak, and you say don't smoke, and I wonder why. Well, why don't I not smoke?
Well,
you know?
You see, the trouble is that you need, the you that isn't you anymore needs not to see. Because the you that isn't you anymore, if it could see, wouldn't be that you anymore. See, what is very hard for many people to realize, that this imprinting, this self, which I call, it comes from imprinting, from trauma. It's a self that actually grows up inside us like an alien. Just like an alien in the movie The Alien. And it's nurtured by the more of the same emotions and experiences that created it. So in order, once you start to hate, let's say you hate your husband, once you start to hate him, a thing starts growing up inside you that needs to hate. You'll think of him, you'll see a husband and wife just like, who looks like your husband, and you'll resent them for being happy and you're not. You resent your children because it reminds you, your son reminds you of your husband.
You mentioned, Roy, about how...
Well, can I just finish? Mm-hmm. Can I just finish? I just want to make a point that this alien self needs the cover of drinking and smoking, and it is in control of your thinking. You are not. It will give you the excuse. It will give you the compulsion. It will obsess you with something, to look for something with which to distract, because it cannot tolerate the tormenting light of conscience. It now must survive. It's a survival mechanism of the it that is not you, but the it that you think is you. See? So therefore, it becomes a psychology of thinking. It gets inside, and it starts to control you and to think through you, as if it were you, and because you think it is your thoughts, you follow it. Have you noticed that you cannot change your thoughts? You cannot change a habitual thought, an obsessive idea. It keeps coming back and back and back, and then you struggle with it, you struggle with it, you struggle with it, and then finally you seem to give it more power, don't you? And then you think to yourself, it thinks through you, and you think to yourself, and you think it's you thinking? Well, you know, it must be natural. Is that right? Why fight nature, right? And then you give in to nature. You buy that one, and you give into it, and what have you got? More obsessive thoughts and conscience. And then thank you very much for join us next week. We hope we're here. Send money, and we'll be here. Thank you very much, and join us again.
This concludes our program.